Welcome to my coding school. So let's continue with the grid layout. So here we left off when we had set the number of rows to be 3 and then 200 pixels for each, and then we did the same for the columns, and then we did set the height, and then we left off with this kind of setup. You see now our container has a height of 800 pixels, and each of these they are equal because each has 200 pixels. So now we wanted to use this property, justify content, and then it's going to allow us to align items along the row axis, and then the default values being start, and then other values being end, center, space between, space around, and then space evenly. So let's start applying these values one by one, and then we shall notice the different kinds of output. So this is the property, justify content. We're working with the row axis, and this is going to be applied to all the items. So here in the code, I'll write the property for justify content, and then start is the default value, save, and then I'll go into the browser, and then there will be a dash start in this corner, and then the other value is called end. Then they will come to this side. Remember, we are on the row axis, and then the other value is called center here. So we use the center now. Save. Go to the browser. We are now at the center of the container, and then go to this around, save, and then the browser, they'll have a space around, but here this will be a half of this. So if this is 40 pixels, this is going to be 20 pixels, and then space between, and then they will have here spacing, but at the start and the end they'll be removed. So if I want them to be having the same spaces both at the beginning and the end, I'll use evenly. Save. Then now the spaces are evenly distributed. So this is the justify content along the row axis, and then to align items along the column axis within the container, we have align content. So it does take the same values. So let's change this to align content, and then we shall start with the default, which is start, and then go to the browser. It will be in that corner, and then we apply end, save, and then you'll notice that at the end of the container, and then enter, and then they should be in the center of the container along the column axis. And then if I come here and then I set them to a space around, we shall have here the same price as this at the beginning and then at the end, and then space between. Then they should have some spacing in between, but not at the start and the end, and then evenly, space evenly, and then we should have this spacing that is equal at all the sides. So that's how we align items along the column axis. So to align items both along the row and the column axis, we use the place content. For example, we can apply start and then end a single value. If we use 1, it will be assigned to both of these properties. I'll come to the code, and then instead of align, I'll use place, then place content, and then I'll use start, and then end. Yeah. Then I'll have them at that side, both of the at the column side and then the row side, and then we can have start, and then this start, and then also start. Then they will all be at that side of the container. So you can practice with the different kinds of values to see the different kinds of output. So let's move on to the next set of properties. So we have a grid auto flow, which controls how auto test items get inserted into the grid. So the default is row. The possible values can be row, column, dense, row dense, and then column dense. So for this one, I'm simply going to use a row, then columns, and then you can research on the rest. So we are going to start with a grid with a grid auto columns, and then the grid auto row, and then we are going to use them to set the height and then the width. The height is for the column, and then the width is for the row. It can be in pixels, a percentage, and then we can also use the min max for the auto. So more properties are grid template area, then grid, and then the grid. So here, let's look at this grid auto flow. And now I'll come into the code, and then I'll remove this, and then set the grid auto, grid auto columns like this, and then we are going to set it to press 100, save, go to the browser. Okay, let's first correct here something. So grid auto flow like this, and then by default it will be row. So save, go to the browser, and then we have rows, and then if I come here and then I set it to columns, then here we shall have now this flipped item 1, item 2, item 3, then item 4, 5, 6, and then like this in the column format. So I'll leave it at rows, save, then they will be in the row format, item 1, 2, 3, and then like this going downwards. So we said that we have grid auto column and then grid auto row, which are used for setting the height, then the width. So let's use these two, and then we shall be done with this video. So grid auto columns, set it to 10 100 pixels, save. Here it's 100 pixels, save, go here, and then they will have that kind of setup. I'll first remove this, and then we have that size. Oh, this is 100, sorry, and then let's bring back this, and then for the columns, for the rows, remove this, save, also comment out this, save, and then we have their sizes. So that's it for this video. We are going to start the very next one with grid item properties. So again, you can practice with these different properties and values to get your desired layout.